Hello and welcome to this episode of Community Connections, airing right here on OROMIA11. I'm your host, Anna Orr. And today we are talking all things Black Heart Health Awareness. This is going to be an episode you won't want to miss. I'm so excited to have you joining me on this episode of Community Connections. Can you do me a favor and just introduce yourself to viewers and that of the organization that you represent?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tara Robinson. I am the co-founder of Black Heart Association. We are based here in Dallas, Texas.
Wonderful. And if viewers have not been able to tell, we are talking all things Black cardiovascular health today. It is so important and is, according to the Center of Disease Control, the #1 killer of African American adults across the country. Can you kind of talk to us about the work of the Black Heart Association?
So the work of the Black Heart Association is making sure we drive that needle from those stats you just mentioned down lower, that we are no longer the face of cardiovascular disease deaths across the United States, across the globe, actually. So what we do is that we go out into communities of color. It can be from the corner store to the boardroom, wherever our people are is where we want to be is our motto. And we go out and we screen for heart disease.
Now talk to me about where the vision for the Black Heart Association came from. I personally am aware because I am well versed in the website, but for those that didn't get a chance to take a look just yet, can you talk to us about where this actually came from?
So the Black Heart Association was born, let me go back. We actually started under a different name in 2016 under Rock Your Heart. And we went through a name change. Yeah, it was Rock Your Heart. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of stale, but I don't know. So we started there, and it was just really me getting out, telling my story, my personal story, and then doing little small events, trying to just fill the gap, see what if the need I thought we needed matched to what our community needed as a whole. And so I felt like at that time we started Rock Your Heart, it just wasn't having the impact that I knew it should have. And so I put it down and I said, I'm just going to pray about this thing and we're going to see what God says. So unfortunately, that answer came in 2019 when losing my brother-in-law. In front of my niece and nephew at the age of 38 to cardiovascular disease, hypertension, which is high blood pressure, heart attack. And so losing him was like God giving me a front row seat to my own funeral. Watching my family grieve because of something that I survived was very hard on me. And so taking his black suit to the funeral home is kind of where Black Heart was, the name change came in to play. I changed the name for two reasons. For one, I don't want it to be the #1 killer of our people. And two, I don't want it to be the #1 killer of anyone to have to wear that black suit to a funeral like I did, or in your casket or whatever. It might sound grim, but that is the true reality of it. So that day that I took his black suit to the funeral home, the name was changed to Black Heart Association.
How has the Black Heart Association and your personal story, how does that kind of translate to the work that you do every day?
So viewers probably don't know that I am a 3-time heart attack survivor, and totally caught me off guard. I'm in, all the things that people will probably say, well, did she have this or did she have that? I had health insurance. I frequent the doctor. I had just seen my doctor in January, like I do every single year. If something's wrong, if my toenail's broke, I'm going to see the doctor. That's how often I would see the doctor. So being in the military, all these things. And so I've always been in touch with the healthcare system. So when I had heart attack #1, I was adamant that it was not a heart attack. When I had heart attack #2, I was also in agreement with the doctors that it wasn't a heart attack. But now I'm like, it's something, so y'all need to keep me. The first doctor released me, so I faced bias in care. I remember him saying, he was a young Black doctor saying to me, you're too young to be having a heart attack, and look at you. So looking at my physical attributes, and they did tests, but because my test did not show up because my test showed up normal, they dismissed me and sent me home. And so then the next day, had another one in my classroom in front of my students, arrived at the ER, and the cardiovascular doctor, who was a white woman, was adamant about sending me home, even though she told me I had the textbook symptoms of a heart attack. So me and her going back and forth. So that was my racism that I experienced in care. And then going back, the third time actually after saying keep me and staying there overnight, being released at 11, going back at 4, that same day having a massive heart attack. And so that's kind of my journey. I speak truth to power when it comes to racism, bias, equity equity in care and equality in care. We face all of that as Black people, and so this is my story, this is my voice. And when we say stand on business, that's what I do, and it's in that arena.
It sounds like it's been so necessary for you. You had to not only be a patient, but you also had to advocate for yourself against medical professionals. Where did you find the wherewithal to do that while you're dealing with back-to-back cardiovascular issues?
I can laugh to stop from crying at this point, but when I look back on it, I've always been this rule, I don't want to say breaker, but always kind of buck the rules, or you always had to kind of explain to me why A equals or 1 equals 2 or 1 plus 1 equals 2. So when I was I'm about to say the system, because it is a system to me. When I was going through this process, knowing something was wrong, but not being sick enough, not realizing how sick I was, and not even realizing I was advocating for myself. We don't call it that growing up. We just call it speaking up. I was speaking up because I know my body. And so looking back on it, I was just speaking up for the fact that something was going on crazy in me, and I didn't know what it was, and I needed them to pay a little more attention. And so, we want to believe everything our doctors say. I believe my doctor in January when she said, you're just stressed out and you probably just need to do something to relieve the stress. Well, she never said it could be my heart. So I'm just thinking I'm stressed. I believe the doctor when he says, well, you're too young to be having a heart attack. I'm too young and you're the professional. I believe the cardiovascular doctor when she says, although you come in with the signs and symptoms of a heart attack, you're not having a heart attack. Why shouldn't I believe these people? You went to school for this. So, just speaking up for myself, and it's very necessary that we all find the power to speak up for ourselves.
Now, I know that's actually a beautiful transition to my next question. You have a 3-pronged approach about the work of the Black Heart Association. Yeah. Advocacy, education, and then the third. Can you talk to us about how you decided on that model to educate and empower and bring awareness to such a necessary issue?
After I had my heart attacks, dying on the operating table, going into sudden death, and coming back here, I realized I didn't know nothing about heart disease, not in the sense that it was given to me, not know the symptoms. We hear that all the time, know the symptoms, but it's not just that. It's so much more. And it's relationships, it's jobs, it's lifestyle choices, it's a very personal journal, it's spiritual, it's all these things that make up our heart. And so when I look at education or advocacy, I realize what was missing. One, there's no relationship in the healthcare system. It's just the health system. I don't even really call it health care because there's no care there, in my opinion. When I look at the advocacy part, it goes back to the relationship part. When I do the screenings, it's back to the relationship part. I can't get you on the bus if I don't have a relationship, if I can't quickly build a relationship with you. I can't educate you if I can't build a relationship with you. And I cannot advocate if I don't build relationship. And so I knew that the way that the current models are, it's plenty of models of education, advocacy, and all those things out there. But the main factor is relationship. And it just goes back to love. For us, it's really that simple.
I just want to share a brief statistic while we talk about this. According to the American Heart Association, 600,000 people die from heart disease a year. And that's about 44% African American.
Well, you know, I'm always leery about other people's statistics. I will say that. Not saying that they're wrong, but I can tell you about Black heart statistics. I can tell you that last year we screened 414 people who had not seen a doctor in a year simply because they don't trust the health system. I can tell you that we, out of the people who are genetically inclined for heart disease, no one knew. Out of 2,000 people that we have, almost 3,000 people that did not know that they were genetically at risk for heart disease, but walking around perfectly fine with no other comorbidities. I didn't tell you, you know, I can tell you that high blood pressure, the diastolic number is a higher risk for us as Black women. That we, you know, you never hear us talking about the bottom number. You always hear us talking about the top number. But I can tell you it all plays a part and we're suffering on both ends. So the data tells us that every 26 seconds, I believe it is, 20 seconds, that someone is dying from a heart attack. And what I would say to our community is, we don't have to. We do not have to die from this. This does not have to be your story. My story does not have to be yours. And that's the hopes at Black Heart.
Talk to me a little bit about some of the symptoms that you were encountering when you said something's not right. I think so many of us encounter situations of, not just medically, but today we'll talk about medically, where they go, something's not right. I don't know what it is, but my baseline for my body is off, and I need to get to a doctor like you did. What were some of those that you were experiencing?
My first symptoms started in November of 2013. So almost 6 months before I had my heart attacks. My left arm went numb and my neck started to bother me. And fatigue was there, but we ignore that one. That's the one we ignore. And that it probably was the symptom that showed up way before any other symptom. But my left arm was numb, my neck, and fatigue. Well, then around, I was about to say, y'all, we started self-diagnosed trying to figure it out because I'm healthy as far as I know. And so then around Christmas time, my feet started to turn darker than the rest of my body. And so that's when my sister was like, yeah, you need to get there to the hospital. I mean, to your doctor. So I knew I had that appointment coming up. So those were the first 4 signs, right? So when I arrived on April 10th, I wake up at 2:00 in the morning. My left arm is numb. My jawline is numb. My upper back is in pain. My chest felt like I swallowed a big pill and it just wouldn't go down. I was hot. I was flashing. I felt sick to my stomach. All of these things was happening. It was like my body was just misfiring. But by the time I arrived to the hospital, all these things were gone. Now, according to statistics, only 20% of women show up with the textbook symptoms of heart attack, the same as a man. I showed up with the textbook symptoms. So imagine what happens to the 80% of us that don't show up with textbook symptoms. And as for women, you know, it can always show up differently.
And I'm thinking of how many times have we dismissed, right, a pain here or there where we believed, like you said, we're trying to self-diagnose. So we're saying what we even are encountering is not happening, almost dismissing ourselves before we get to the doctor.
That's really good, dismissing ourselves. We have to really be careful with that. But as it's weird because as women, we're so in tune with ourselves at the same time. But I think when we look at behavior and mental, which I'm a counselor, so I can kind of speak to that. When we look at that, the last thing we want to think is something's wrong with me. And so it's that's a harsh reality to think something could be wrong or something is off. Let me take the time to figure out what that is. And that means we have to stop and slow down to do that.
I think that's a good piece of advice, that we have to slow down, period, just across the board, slow down and take better care of ourselves. What do you believe is the contributing factor around the lack of knowledge around anything that has to do with cardiovascular health for us? Not just heart disease, but stroke being the number 5 cause of death for African Americans in the U.S.
I don't want to say it's a lack of knowledge, because our people are we're very educated. I think what it is, we've been misled. And so we're trying to catch up on all the information that has always been given to us. Like I said before, it's usually based, these are the symptoms, or what we see on media over and over and over again. For years, never represented us. It always represented an older white man clenching his chest. Well, heart disease doesn't look like that for a lot of people. Stroke doesn't look like that for a lot of people. So, or the droops and all of it. So you look at the information out for stroke. How often do we see a commercial? How often do we even hear anything about stroke unless something massive happens in the media? But when you see heart disease, the first thing I thought of was, I don't look like anybody. And I'm sure that's what the doctor thought too. Well, she doesn't look like anybody that we've always seen that presents. She's not an older white gentleman. And she's not pot-bellied. We always think it can happen to old people that are what we deem as heavier or overweight. But I'm thin. So these are some of them. I think if we can learn anything, we can learn that heart disease does not discriminate based on size, based on color, based on it just doesn't. It's ruthless in its attack. So we have some habits that we can break, but as far as knowledge, I think we know. We just need to know now, what can we do better? What habits can we break to break this cycle of heart disease and stroke?
Then let's talk a little bit about that. What are some specific things that people can start doing right now in real time to change some of the habits to improve their heart health?
Get that mirror out. Look yourself in the mirror. First, let me go back. Before you get your mirror out, you got to go to the doctor. If you don't have insurance, get it. Call us. We can get you insured. If you don't have a Black doctor, go on Facebook. We have a Black doctor locator page that locates across the globe. Easy. Because you got to know your numbers. If I don't know where I'm starting, I can't know where if I don't know where I'm starting at, where the starting line, I can't get to the finish line. I'm just standing. I'm at the starting line, just waiting for the gun to go off. Right. That's kind of how we live our lives. But we gotta start the race. We gotta get to the doctor, see what's going on. So once we get to the doctor and we get our numbers, now we know where we kind of stand. Okay. So my cholesterol's up. What do I do? So now I'm looking at, how do I eat? What's contributing to that issue? Is it food? Is it stress? Is it, what is it? Am I making time out for myself? So start there by making time out for yourself. And we don't do that. It's 24 hours in a day. And we can't even take out 2 hours an hour. Then I'm preaching to myself, y'all, as I'm talking to y'all, because it's a constant reminder. Every day we have to choose us. Every second of the day, it has to be a us choice. But in our community, we have been taught to love our neighbor first. And we got to kind of reverse that, because we can't take care of our neighbor until we take care of ourselves first.
I think that's well said. I was reading yesterday, and I came across something I found I thought enlightening around food. Like you said, changing some of our habits and some of the things that we're putting inside of our bodies can help contribute to our overall health. It says eating food high in sodium and low in potassium is contributing to cardiovascular issues at a consistent rate. And I'm thinking people that are experiencing food deserts, areas that spend a lot of times that are cold, like we are here in Minnesota, where it's not easy to get consistent fruit and vegetables as you would somewhere else, say Texas, for instance. You have to be more cognizant of making healthier choices around what we're actually eating and trying to close the gap on access to healthier foods, specifically in underserved communities that tend to house people that look like you and I.
When we talk about issues with food security in this big old United States that we send billions of dollars across the world to do other things, it's problematic, right? Um, the first thing I would say to that as an individual, just on a single person level, is look at your labels. Let's start there. When we talk about added sodium, added sugar, you know, let's start there. At least taking the time out to look at our labels and seeing what's in it. Processed food is killing us. We need, when you talk about access to healthier neighborhoods, I mean, for us to have healthier neighborhoods, we need, we have a thing here called Southside Garden, which goes behind homes and makes sure people have gardens in their homes. But what if I'm in a condition like you? Like cold, what do I do then? And so trying to come up with these solutions where you have in-house, but can we afford that? So it's kind of just all these things that have to work together in the community, like you said, because one person might know how to garden where the other person might not know how. And so each one has to teach one. And I think that's how we began to just move the needle a little bit. So if I know how to read my labels and say, this is no good for me, and you don't, so then I teach you how. So I think that's how we're going to begin to bring the needle down as far as food insecurity is concerned. And I think too, it's coming together as one and figuring out what the solution is for our community. So we on the bus, now we're getting ready to go to address food insecurity. And one of the ways we're going to do that is by just asking, do you need access? Do you need food? And that's just a yes or no. We don't need to know all your business. We don't need to know why. We just need to know, do you need it? And it's okay to check on your neighbor and see if they need access to healthy food. We don't have these conversations even within our families. Start there. Start with your family.
I think you're right about that. Not only checking on each other, but living more in a community style where we are, like you said, each one teach one, but where we are starting to be accountable to each other and for one another.
Yeah.
Now, we know that the work around Black Heart Health is not one that is done alone. You all have community partners at Black Heart Association. Can you talk to me about what having community partners has done for your reach in the community?
Our community is our biggest community partners. Let me say that starting off, because we don't have big marketing campaign here. Our bus is booked pretty much all year. And it's because word of mouth. So shout outs to our community for making sure our community is taken care of. Two, we have partners all over from like Southside Gardens. We screen we go to all their homes where they have the gardens, and we screen their the people so they can know if their numbers are changing, going up and down, or getting better. We have our community partners from doctor's office. We have plenty of doctors come and go along with the bus so people can see the doctor right then and there versus having to make an appointment in hopes of building a relationship. Now I know this doctor, maybe I'll go in to see him. So it's very intentional. We have mental health professionals also come with the bus. So we don't call them mental health professionals, but we call them life coaches. So now you know her, maybe you'll go ahead and have those 3 appointments that Black Heart Association pays for you for free. So these are kind of some of the things when we look at community, is our bus is a whole community of people. We have the CDC, which is a national partner. Thank God for them. We have pharmaceutical companies that partner with us, and we might frown, but somebody's going to always be on medicine. It is what it is. And so, so we have very small grassroots organizations that we partner with, all the way to national organizations that we partner with to help push this thing forward.
Now, you talked about the bus, but what are some other ways that you guys are out in the community talking about Black Heart Health?
We speak everywhere, y'all. We're everywhere speaking. Last year we were at where were we? We go to DC a lot to advocate, to raise our voices against the inequities in care. We're everywhere. Literally, if it's not speaking, it's that bus, and that bus handles all of Texas. We've been to Essence in that bus. We've been to Kansas in that bus. So it's a national effort to have buses across the state, not just here in Dallas. I mean, across the U.S. So not just here in Dallas. So yeah, we're kind of all over to be such a small team.
What is next on the horizon for Black Heart Association?
Like I mentioned earlier, we have our food program coming out. Healthier Hoods is what we're going to call that. Then we have we get another bus, 2 more buses here in Texas. If y'all know, Texas is huge, so to cover it it takes a lot. So we'll have one in Houston, one in San Antonio, and then we're moving up south, Louisiana, then keep on going, Alabama, all those. I didn't say them in order. But we're going that way first, and then once we're all over the nation, then we'll start something else. We'll start doing something else.
Taking over the world. I think this is such necessary work and so poignant, and I think there is a way that we take care of each other that hasn't hit the healthcare system yet. I'll say that.
Ooh, I can speak to that. I will tell you, when we began, we had 500 hospitals, Black-owned, Black-ran, across the United States many moons ago. We're down to 1. We need that back to save our community.
I think that's true. I think that's very true. So to anyone that is watching and that can help us make that happen, you know who to contact. Miss Tara Robinson and her team at the Black Heart Association.
Yes.
Now, for anyone that is not in the amazing state of Texas but would love to benefit from the resources you all offer, how do we do that? Are you all on social media? How do they stay connected with the Black Heart Association?
Yes, social media. We're on all the channels. Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, you name it, we're out there. So you can find us. Black Heart Association is our name on all the platforms out there. So yeah, we're all over social media. Just search Black Heart Association.
And lastly, will you please give a call to action to somebody that may be dealing with a cardiovascular issue or may feel like you and say, hey, I've had some discoloration in my feet, or my arm has gone numb, or my neck has started bothering me, and they need to see a primary care physician about issues concerning their heart, but they're fearful. Can you please just give them some encouragement?
My word of encouragement to you is yes and no. Yes to yourself and no to anyone trying to dismiss you in the healthcare system. Yes to you. Yes, it's okay to go get checked out. Yes, I'm not feeling good. Yes, yes, yes to yourself. It's okay to give yourself permission to take care of yourself, to take that time out. So say yes to you. And then no to anyone that's giving you pushback. Once you decide that yes, I have an issue, I will take no no's until I get to the end or a solution that I feel at peace with when it comes to my health.
Absolutely. And then one final thing, please provide us with the web address so that people can start connecting with the Black Heart Association right after they watch this episode.
You can connect with us at www.blackheartassociation.org.
Thank you, Tara Robinson, for your time and for the work you're doing to improve the hearts all over the country for people that look like you and me.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care of yourselves.
Bye-bye. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for this episode of Community Connections. A very special thank you to Tara Robinson and her amazing team at the Black Heart Association. Please connect with them via their website so that you can start taking better care of your heart and get ahead of your cardiovascular health. We can prevent the numbers from being what they are, and we can prevent people from dying. As always, I am Anna Orr, and I look forward to connecting again with you soon.